Hey there, welcome. My name is Lou Diamond. At this establishment and in my book, Speak Easy, I've put together the tips, tricks, techniques, blends, mixtures, and concoctions that you need to make more of your conversations great. Whether you're a professional looking to grow your business, a leader looking to connect to your people, or an individual looking to grow your own personal connections, the lessons you'll learn in Speak Easy will help you connect, engage, and win in all of your conversations. Head on over to speakeasybook.com and order yourself a print, digital, or audio copy. Speak Easy. Connect with every conversation. Cheers.
Because the house always wins. Play long enough, you never change the stakes. The house takes you, unless when that perfect hand comes along, you bet and you bet big. Then you take the house. Oh, and thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speak Easy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we are continuing our series on the Speak Easy Mashup, where we are combining two incredible authors together. Oh, I'm one of them. And the other one you're going to learn about right now, where we get a chance to chat about how their book and Speak Easy all connect. This guest today is often described as an authority, an advocate for self-employed business owners, valued for his actionable and in-the-trenches approach to achieving business and life success. He is the author of Lingo and The Self-Employed Life, host of the Self-Employed Life podcast, and founder of Self-Employed Business Institute. Anyone catching a theme here? Today, we're doing a mashup with his incredible book and Speak Easy. Thrive Loud listeners, Jeffrey Shaw. Jeffrey, how are you today?
Hey, Lou, I'm great. It's like to be here with you.
Jeffrey's really excited because he got out of the humidity of South Florida, is hanging out in what is just crazy 95-degree heat in the Northeast. So
it's hotter here than it is in Miami.
Thank you for bringing the weather to the Northeast here, Jeff. So first of all, I want to catch up with you, bring our listeners up to speed. It's been a while. I haven't checked it out, but we had you on when Lingo came out. Mm-hmm. We had you on when Self-Employed came out. Let's catch up to listeners. First of all, what's been going on in the world of Jeffrey Shaw? Bring it up from the last couple of years. What's been the main focus going on in the self-employed life of Jeffrey Shaw?
Well, as often happens after a book comes out, a need arises. Now, my first book, Lingo, I wasn't prepared in any way, shape, or form of what people might ask of me after the book. Like, hey, great book, but I want more from you. Can you do this? All right. Wasn't prepared for that. For Link. I thought I was prepared with the self-employed life. I'm like, all right, I got this. I'm developing a coaching program that will be a good follow-up. Well, as it turned out, once the book was out, people wanted way more than I expected them to want. And that is what inspired me to launch the Self-Employed Business Institute, because the core thing I realized after the book was out is that 15 years of coaching, all my clients have had one common denominator, and that is that they're really good at what they do, but they're in industries where nobody taught them how to make money at what they do. And I realized that I can help them with that. For one, is because there are commonalities in being self-employed, right? There's just a way of being self-employed that isn't talked about, that isn't discussed, isn't explained to anybody who's self-employed. And of course, there are subtleties to each of our individual businesses. And I realized I can build a curriculum that addresses the commonalities and give people the one-to-one coaching they need for their unique business. So that's been rocking my world. It's been the greatest thing I've ever come up with. And I think it's my life's work. Like, I'm building a legacy here.
I guess it's really the self-life work, if we can put it in that regard.
Yeah, there you go.
So in putting together, well, I want to talk about, your book has been out now for about 2 years now, right? It's
no, just a little over a year.
Over a year. Okay, a little over a year. Wow. I guess I can't tell if time's going faster or not. So the book's been out, and usually there is an unexpected gift that the author gets from when his book comes out to the market. It's like, bringing a child into the world, if you would, is basically what it feels like when you're giving birth to a book. But there's something, you knew what it was going to be. You knew the message that was there, but every now and then there's an unexpected avenue or benefit or a gift that happens. Was there one for Jeffrey Shaw?
Actually, I'd say there's two. One was the gift of the pandemic, as horrible as that might sound, is that because of the Great Resignation. Like when I was writing this book at the end of 2019, the pandemic hadn't happened. Little did I know that we were going to have this massive, number of people becoming self-employed. So yes, that's been a gift to the book in general. But I have to say the biggest gift, which I think is what you're more referring to, is really solidifying in myself how we are unconventional business owners in a conventional world. Ooh. And that needs to be addressed, because without that reality, that's what's stressing self-employed people out. It's like, and think about it, Lou, it's people like us, the different makers, right? The black sheeps of our family, the people who are breaking all the rules, the disruptors, we're the ones more likely to become self-employed. So then we become self-employed and we feel like we're trying to fit into another box because the rest of the world isn't thinking and operating like us. So that has been my biggest gift, is really seeing that distinction. And part of it comes from working one-to-one with a number of people due to the Great Resignation, people that are leaving corporate to become self-employed. They're calling upon me for that coaching preparation for 6 months, 8 months, or a year. And what I'm finding is that they are the people that didn't operate in a box in their companies. They were the unconventional thinkers in their corporations. But without preparing them, they so easily fall into the very habits they were trying to get away from, and they end up trying to be conventional in an unconventional world. And that's what frustrates them. Being self-employed, owning your own business is different. So the greatest gift to me has been really grounding that so that I can help people better.
I want to dive into what the self-employed life really harnesses, and I think you can really expand upon this. What is the big takeaway that the readers get in your mind from the self-employed life? What are some of the ways that they can rethink? Like, that's a great example. A corporate person who's used to working in an institution now is starting his own business, needs help doing it. What does the self-employed life help that person with?
So, and again, as an author that you want to go back and rewrite some things, right? Or preface things differently. So what the book is full of, first of all, there is a fair amount of personal development. About a third of the book is personal development, okay, which is something I just fundamentally believe in. Both of my books is kind of the common denominator. It's the common denominator way who I am in the world, because I truly believe that, and I say this over and over again in the book, that your level of success is proportionate to your level of personal development. So as you want to grow more in business and in your success, you have to grow yourself. Okay, so there's a fair amount of coaching in personal development. What I didn't preface as well as I would today is that the strategies that I teach, for example, one of the main strategies is called hug marketing. Self-employed people love this. It became the core curriculum of the Self-Employed Business Institute. Why? Because it's exactly what unconventional business owners have been looking for in a conventional world, which is, how can I market myself in a way that it feels good, that I don't feel like I'm being creepy, that I don't feel like I'm being pushy, that I don't feel like I'm hooking people, because I want the results, but I don't like the way it makes me feel to market in a typical way. So what I wish I prefaced in the book that's so clear to me now is that what I teach are strategies that work specifically for self-employed people, because they are disruptive to the way other people do business. And I wish I made that point a little stronger so that people really grasped the importance of what they're able to learn in the book, like hug marketing. One of the other things I talk about are what I call a business model of multiples, which is an unconventional business model, because let's face it, the traditional business, none of us as self-employed business owners today are going to the bank for funding. Just, they're not giving it, and we're not wasting our time. For the most part, our businesses are bootstrapped. Yeah. Unless you're doing a startup, but most self-employed businesses are bootstrapped. So we're starting with our own funds. So what the hell do we need a traditional business model for?
Right.
What we need is a business model that makes sense for us. And I look at it as a control panel of levers. And I talk about how when you're self-employed, your quote unquote income streams are likely led by impact, knowing the income will follow, as opposed to a traditional business model, which is focused on income first. So a lot of the things like that, like I said, is much more clear to me now that I wish I had. They're the feel good ways, the right ways of being business when you're self-employed.
So here comes a fun one. And we're going to play on this one because this particular podcaster and author has put together a book called Speak Easy, which you know about. And I believe that every connection in life begins with a great conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's crucial if you know how to have really good conversations, and you'll make the connections that will grow your business and life, and you will connect, engage, and win. The self-employed life is a tough one because a lot of people who start their own businesses, specifically those that work for themselves, are doing a lot of things themselves, but they need to have really great conversations with not only prospects and targets, but clients and partners and service folks. Talk to me about, in your world and in your experience, and specifically someone who's also a phenomenal conversationalist in your own right with your own podcast show, how important conversations are in the self-employed life.
It's one of the biggest distinctions between, like I said, the conventional business world and the unconventional business world. Here it is, cut and dry. Most of the world of business is based on transactions. When you're self-employed, your business is based on relationships, hands down, right? So conversations and the building of relationships is everything. And that is one of the major hangups for people, because we're used to what they've experienced, and particularly if they came from corporate, their experience in corporate were all about meeting the sales goals. It was all about the confinement. And now they find themselves self-employed, and you realize business isn't about transactions, it's about relationships. Relationships are built on conversations. I'll give you such a simple example of the difference here that really resonates for people is when you are a transactionally based business and conversations aren't as important, you do stupid things like offer better prices to new customers. Okay, cable companies, cell phone companies. When you're self-employed and your business is based on relationships and conversations, that's the worst thing you can do. You have just insulted all your existing customers by giving favor to a new customer. It is the complete opposite of what you need to do, but that's the way 90% of the world is operating, right? So that's why it's all, a conversation is imperative to, I expect there to be, and I've even said that the degree of conversation, the extensiveness of conversations is often relative to the price point at which you're offering. It's not always that way, but I have a variety of services at different price points. One-to-one coaching is a lot bigger investment than Self-Employed Business Institute. I don't expect someone to commit to one-to-one coaching without there being a proportionate number of conversations to build the relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's something, people realize that if you're not willing to create enough of a relationship and have those conversations before you ask somebody to invest in your services, it's a big hook, that's one of the big obstacles. It's one of the things you have to do.
From your purview, and I'm asking this question from 2 points. Obviously, one is an expert as the author in providing great guidance on how to have your self-employed life. And you've also had incredible guests on your Self-Employed Life podcast program where you've spoken to entrepreneurs and people who've gone through different avenues of how you see things. You made a good point about the commonality of the things you look for of those that have left traditional businesses. The ones who basically were acting entrepreneurially in corporate America would be the ones who can do okay on their own. I want to talk about the ones that are thriving on their own that you've run into from your program. Have you seen unique or common traits from those specific entrepreneurs? So now we're double clicking down. They've got an entrepreneurial spirit. Who are the ones that are killing it in the self-employed life that you've been witnessing?
Wow. That's a great question. I would say, it's I just celebrated my 800th episode. Woo-hoo. Over 8 years. Yeah. And actually I thought about digging down and looking for that commonalities of success mindset and such, but I decided instead I pulled back broader and I spoke about 8 lessons I learned from 800 episodes that were broader than that for business. But I, like you, I am intrigued by what are the commonalities in people that are successful on their own, in their own right, particularly being self-employed. I would say, for one, they own who they are. You know, and I mean that beyond brand. Yes, we know that by now. I think the message has come through pretty loud and clear that it's a big part of your authenticity and about your branding. But they really own who they are. They become comfortable in their skin. And that, I think, is a big part of becoming self-employed, is being comfortable in your skin, because, you know, it takes a thicker skin, you know, to weather the ups and downs and such. But yeah, I think, and that's something I I'm always working on myself. Some days I'm far more comfortable in my skin than I am other days. I did something fun recently with people I was meeting on LinkedIn, and I started emailing people this idea of, if you were to use a catchphrase to describe your experience of being self-employed, what catchphrase would you use? And surprisingly, which was really wonderful, is that people were using much more positive responses than I expected. But people started turning at the tables and asking me, like, how would you describe it? And for a number of them, I described my experience as, 1 minute, I think I'm a rock star, and the next minute, not so much, right?
Yep.
You know, and it can change minute to minute. And I think what I find, people that have been able to even that out, maybe they have more tools to call upon. That's where I turn. I turn towards, like, I like mantras, I like affirmations, I like tools, I like visuals. So I use tools in my life to even that out. But I find that people that are just really killing it tend to be super, super unusually comfortable in their skin.
Yeah.
And they move forward with more clarity, more commitment, more not giving an F, you know, because they're comfortable in their skin. And that to me, I'd say, is the most common denominator, and one that I'm always striving for. Far more now than used to be, but even more so.
That is such a great point, because and by the way, that I would see that similar thing as I look at those that have taken life by the horns and thriving and taking their own business, is that they know who they are, they own it. I love that, and you're right. It's not, you know, do they give a crap? Yes, they do, but they don't care what others think, and they're then doubt. You know, they may be wrong, but they're willing to take that risk or go down that avenue and not worry about that little voice inside their head, someone questioning them, or the other people saying stuff. That's a phenomenal point. And I think that's true about all the great leaders, are the ones who are really confident in that regard.
Yeah. I'll even add to that, now that you're putting that right in front of me, because I realize, like, over the years of hiring team members, I always make one thing very clear to people I hire. And it's related to what you were just saying. And that is, I always tell them, it's like, look, I move forward with 100% commitment that I'm right. I just don't know any other way of being, because I don't dip my toes in the water. Like, I believe I'm 100% right. But what you need to understand is I am equally, if not more, open to realizing I'm wrong and you have a better idea. So don't let my commitment to being right hold you back. Like, just know that I don't have a lot of gray area. You know, I'm that way the way I sleep. I always say I'm either awake or I'm asleep. Like, I'm not tired ever, right? I'm either awake or I'm asleep. Like, I don't have that gray area. And I feel that way in the way that I move forward. Like, I'm committed to the decisions I've made. I'm committed to the direction I'm going in. But man, my mind is so open to a better path or a better idea. And I do think and that is a learned trait. It's something I'm always working on, but I do think there is something there that I find in common with a lot of people that tend to be successful, is they don't move. They're not sort of kind of people. They're all in, and they're open.
I love that. I want to tackle this one before we do some promotion about your book and program and everything that you've got going on. And that is in regard to your ability as a host. You're an excellent podcaster. You ask spectacular questions. And what have you been able to take from being that interviewer, that conversationalist, taking all the lessons? I could tell the listeners, if you want to go follow some of the things we talk about in Speak Easy about those who have great conversations and step into it. And like you said, when you're on, you're on. You literally you have that switch and you keep the energy going. Things that you've taken from this skill and put into your own business's self-employed life. I'm sure there's something that has reverberated back from your skills as a listener and an interviewer that has helped make you as a conversationalist even more successful in business.
Yeah. You know what? As simple as it may sound, know who you're speaking to. I have changed how I view myself as an interviewer. I now refer to myself as a translator.
Oh.
My job as a host is I understand my audience so well, in part because I've lived their life. I am living their life. And I've also lived through their life. I've overcome some things that my audience is still encountering. But I know them, I breathe them, I smell them, I picture certain people when I'm interviewing. So I also have guests on that are super smart, intelligent. I read every book, so it's an in-depth conversation. They're high-level thinkers. So I find as a host, my job often, because I know my audience so well, is to translate what's being said into a way that it's retainable by the audience.
Yeah.
And that's a skill that applies everywhere in business. I find in business, when listening is a form of translation. So when you're listening to those that you serve, it's your job to translate what they're saying to what they might need. Or what I often refer to as truly the definition of being an expert is not giving people what they've asked for. The true definition of being an expert is to know what people need that they don't know to ask for. And you only get there by translation. You only get there by deeply listening to what they're saying, and then tapping into your experience, expertise, and delivering back to them what it is that they really need, either perhaps in that moment, so you can get them over the fence of their own resistance to perhaps joining your program or buying your thing, or it's in the act of serving them, particularly in coaching, that you're more clear on what they need than what they think they need. Because it's the difference what I refer to as an acknowledged need and deeper need.
Yeah.
People only know to ask for their acknowledged need. They only know to ask for what they need. As coaches, we almost always know that the route to giving them what they need is a deeper need. So it's that idea of translation I have learned first and foremost by being a podcast host, but I found it has made me a better listener. It's made me step far deeper into giving people what they need. And it's been a game changer for me. It's something I feel like I feel grateful for the opportunity as a podcast host to practice all the time.
And that's kind of the thing I was going at. It's probably also by being a better listener, you're becoming a better coach inherently with that too. And obviously, with obviously the lesson and the platform you have, I want to share that with the listeners right now. What a gift that can be to be able to, and specifically with some of the people he's had on the program. Everyone, we'll give all the show note links here. Go back and check out some of these incredible entrepreneurs and stories that you've had throughout there.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, let's do that. Let's do the plug part. Share with the listeners every place they could find the Self-Employed Life, you, websites, URLs, socials. We'll put it in the show notes. Gets more engagement when they hear from you.
Cool. Well, I love that you would right in the beginning said, if you haven't noticed, there's a theme, right? I'm building out the ecosystem of all things self-employed. So yes, it's the Self-Employed Life podcast, which is on every app that you can find a podcast, Spotify, iHeart, all the basics, all the others. The Self-Employed Life, the book, is available any place you can buy books online. And that was very important to me because I wanted to make sure we also made it available on the smaller online retailers. So not all the money goes to the big behemoth because I am supporting self-employed people. There's the Self-Employed Business Institute, which is the 5-month business training and one-to-one coaching program I've developed. You can find that at selfemployedbusinessinstitute.com. All of this also springs off of my main website, which is jeffreyshaw.com. What else have I got?
You got a lot. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's all has to do with, and there's other things. I've got an advocacy group called the Voices of Self-Employed, which is my political arm, because I would like to be a lot more politically involved someday on the rights of self-employed people. So I'm already looking at directions in which, like, why don't we self-employed people have like group health insurance? And why don't we forget the SBA in the US government, Small Business Administration? It's too big. I want a department for the self-employed, right? So I want to break that off. So I've got political aspirations. I'm not running for office, but I have ways in which I want to be an advocate. So I've got arms at that as well.
Love it. Jeffrey Shaw, we're going to do the modified speed round of Thrive Loud here because we've had you on the program before. So we're not going to go through the movies and all that stuff. But I do want to ask this question since we'll play off of the fact that obviously you live in South Florida the majority of the time. You're trying to cool off, which is unsuccessfully working in the Northeast here. All right. So your favorite place to eat where you're hanging out right now this summer?
Oh my gosh, I haven't investigated a lot yet, but I understand a place I plan on going to is called Good News Cafe because it is farm to table. And I love restaurants that are farm to table, not just because of the healthiness of it, but I just like the ecosystem of places like that. And I'm big on ecosystems.
Okay. Favorite place to eat in your hometown?
A place called Sexy Fish. And it is just that. Imagine Las Vegas meets Miami. That's Sexy Fish.
The biggest change after we're saying we're kind of after the pandemic. The biggest change from your work life, I guess, that's happened after the pandemic at this particular point, as we've opened up things. Anything more that you've been doing since you've been out and about?
Well, certainly, as I've mentioned numerous times, the Self-Employed Business Institute, right? So that's changed my world, and that's a result of that. The biggest change is that I don't expect I'll be traveling as much as a speaker because of my commitment to the Business Institute. So where that's led me, as I told my speaking rep, is 100% clarity that I only want to speak in front of my people. And I've given her a full description of who my people are. Because as a speaker, I've bent my content and I've bent my keynotes to fit other people's agendas. And just like in business itself, I don't want to spend my time trying to find people that value what I have to offer. I don't want to prove my value. I want to get in front of people that already value what I offer. Same thing with audiences. I only want to be in front of the audiences that already get me. Yep. So that may mean fewer speaking gigs, and I'm okay with that. And it may mean that I speak for less, and I'm okay with that. I just want to be in front of my people.
Listeners need to know that I happen to know the person that places him for speakers, and she's very focused. She knows how to get him where she needs to be. So
yes.
Anyway, Jeffrey Shaw, so great to catch up with you. Everybody, check out The Self-Employed Life. Grab yourself a copy of Speak Easy. See how they could all work together. And thanks again, man, for coming on the program. This was great.
Thanks, Lou.
You got it. And to all the listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.